a quiet episode of Calcio Guys this week. Just me and Adriano. No Johnny, he's busy tutoring. We had some trouble finding a guest. Everyone's busy, I guess, on this Wednesday night. Adrian, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. I guess it's I don't know. Rolling back the times, just I don't even know if it was ever just the two of us, but hey, well, we're here.
Oh, it
Calcio
definitely
Guys
was. It
episode.
definitely was.
Yeah, one time a guaranteed CJO something. I don't know back in the days. But yeah, man, happy to be back. What a culture to be to talk about, and yeah, I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
lots to talk about as the City A season winds down. I think it's 6 weeks left, 6 games left for most teams. But before we start, just want to wish our well wishes to Evan Indica from Roma, who seems to be in good condition. As we know, he collapsed on the pitch this weekend against Udinese.
Yeah,
Scary scenes, especially with what's happened in the past. I think it was the anniversary of Morosini's passing, who passed away. I think he was playing either for Pescara against Pescara about 10, 12 years ago in Serie B. Obviously, Joe Barone this year, who had, heart related issues before his death. And at the end of the day, we're happy Ndika is fine. He was taken to hospital for their test. Shout out to Roma, because for the fans this weekend in their upcoming game this weekend, fans over 45 could get free medical exams, heart exams. I think it's really important. It's scary, guys. These are one of the two most important organs in our body alongside our brain, and you got to
yeah,
take care of it. It's scary for these athletes because their heart's working a lot more than
nonstop.
me. Yeah, than me and you, Adriano, and as we sit here tonight. So,
Yeah,
yeah, just glad he's fine. Well, speedy recovery. Hopefully, he's back on the pitch for Roma soon, and hopefully, this gives an opportunity also for education for fans and just for the league in general. Just make sure everyone's healthy.
it's scary, man. It's scary, like you said. Like we've seen obviously, unfortunately, we've seen incidents like this occur. Obviously you see things like this, and I had the game like kind of on and off. And when I kind of came back to the game, it's like I kind of caught like the tail end of what was happening. I went to go like rewind just to go see what happened. And listen, man, I don't care who you support. I don't care what you believe in. I mean, this is something that you feel for, and Indika, young guy, obviously, and this stuff happens too. And these are professional athletes training at the highest of levels, playing at the highest of levels. So yeah, man, just to stay healthy, obviously, and keep these things in check. I think is obviously important, and I think all the protocols went according to plan. I got him to hospital as fast as possible, and kind of just even liked how it was handled, in terms of listen, this is the business end of the season in Serie A. There's quite a lot to play for these teams in their own rights. One trying to get into Europe, one trying to stay out of the relegation battle. So, you know, just from the ref to De Rossi to Trophy to the captains to everybody involved, uh, you know, deciding to just end the game there, postpone the game there, and pick it up at a later date. From that point on. So, um, yeah, I think it was handled, relatively well from what I saw. So that was obviously an important thing. It seemed like he gave that thumbs up before he kind of got taken off the field,
Yeah,
which
that was good.
was somewhat of a positive sign. You always, every time you're watching professional sports and you see these types of injuries or any type of injury really, that they have to get carted off, stretch it off, whatever, taken in the ambulance. That thumbs up everybody's looking for, right? So it looked like that's what he kind of gave. So it was obviously a positive sign that we were all hopeful for, and we've seen things like this. It brings you back to Ericsson, Christian Ericsson in the Euros, right? With that incident, if you follow the NFL, Damar Hamlin, right, on that Monday night game, with the Bills and the Bengals in the NFL, and obviously a very very scary scene. So yeah, it just we always remember, of course, Davide Astori. His tragic death was one that really hit home for a lot of Italians, especially at that time. So it's crazy, man. It just not much more to say, but we wish him well. We hope for him to be a safe and speedy recovery and get back on the pitch as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen with the game. I don't know if you heard anything Adreano saying to something yesterday. It's still unknown. It's 15 minutes left, so I don't know if
Yeah.
you just play those 15 minutes, if you replay the match in its
What I
entirety.
had, yeah, what I was hearing just by like I just stayed on the stream, shout out to Fubo TV, being able to kind of go back and forth and being able to like re-listen, rewatch whatever you need to do. And from what I was hearing on the feed, it seems like they're gonna pick up the play from I think it was what the 70th odd minute when this incident happened. So just I don't think that the whole game's going to be replayed. From what I understanding, it should be from that point on, which is still crunch time in Calcio, right? Those last 20 odd minutes at the end of the game there. So in a 1-1 game that it was at. So yeah, that's what I had heard. I didn't really read up and see more reports, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But from my knowledge, that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty crazy if Roma has to travel back there just for 15 minutes, but you got to do what you got to do. And,
Yeah.
even looking at both teams in the standing, they're going to be fighting for a top five. I don't know. We'll talk some UCL later, but I think at this point it's confirmed that Italy is going to get a fifth spot. That's what I was seeing on Twitter. And then even Udinese with the relegation battle, they're 1 point ahead of Frosinone. So,
Hmm.
this is big. It was a big game going into it for both teams, but at the end, they did the right job canceling the game for the guys on the field. Like it's hard emotionally. We even saw that in the NFL, like you said, with DeMar Hamlin, where the game was just stopped and ultimately they never finished it just because there was no change, I think, in the playoff standings.
Hmm.
But anyways, we'll have time to talk about all the other games from this past weekend. It started on Friday, 4-1 Lazio over Salernitana, and then it finished on Monday, 2-2 Verona. There's two games on Mondays, both draws. So it was a long weekend. I mean, they do this every weekend. It's gonna same thing this weekend where we have Genoa and Lazio on Friday, and then we finish with the Derby on Monday, and we'll definitely talk about that after. But
Yeah.
we'll start. We might as well just start with our teams. Get right into it because they each drew 3-3 for Sassuolo and Milan. It seems like Sassuolo, they have a thing for these Milan teams, whether it be Inter or Milan itself. Like they always get results. Even when we went to go see Sassuolo Milan back in 2019, a beautiful 0-0 draw with one
Yeah.
disallowed goal.
Yes.
And this time 3-3. Pinamonti scored, Loriente 2 goals, and then from Milan side it was Leao, Jovic, and Okafor. I mean, what did you make of the game, Adrian?
Yeah, just pure madness, right? You said it right there, Nick. Sassuolo always seems to be somewhat of a trouble for the Milano teams. We've said it time and time again on this show, dating back to the CJO days. I remember we were talking stuff like this, so it's no surprise. I mean, I think the only time where it was a true beatdown was the Milan Scudetto year, the last game of the season, where I think trumped them. It was 3-0, right? So, um, yeah, just pure madness. These early games. I think it was a 9 a.m. game. Um, I don't know. It just right off the bat, it didn't go right. Like, and I don't know if this was fatigue from the Europa League match because Pioli changed a lot of the lineup. Obviously, we saw a lot of fans even by seeing the predicted lineups were already getting a bit upset. Pioli's had a bit of a history of like shaking the boat and really rotating the squad and kind of getting like negative results following that. So listen, I was always going to be hopeful, but once the game started, 1-0, 2-0, it was like, okay, here we go again. Like this is another story with Sassuolo that is probably not going to end well. So listen, I give them credit for battling back and salvaging a point. Obviously in the grand schemes of the Scudetto race, that doesn't really mean much, but in terms of being able to hopefully capture that second place, still Juve within distance, a decent distance, not anything crazy. Was obviously the goal. Couldn't do it. Seen Juve's result as well. It seems like we didn't even play a match there, right? We both draw, both at the same spot. We're still, I think it's 6 points difference between 2 and 3. So, uh, yeah, I obviously didn't like the approach. I think even dating back to, I guess we'll get into it later, but from the Europa League match, I didn't like the the attitude in that game. I think it kind of, even though it was a bit of a different lineup, it kind of rolled over in this game too. Obviously the subs I think were positive in terms of Jovic coming in, and that made a bit of a difference. Okafor seems to be Mr. Clutch off the bench. I think he has five or six goals, I think, and I think all of them are off the bench. So, it's just one of those things that you want to progress, you want to take a step forward, but it seems like with one step forward, it's two back sometimes with this Milan. So, frustrating to say the least. And I know there was a lot of frustrating matches in this match day, but being the Milan fan, I think this was one of them. Somehow it was a 6-goal thriller in terms of the 3-3 result, but I don't know. It's one of these things. Business end of the season, you want to have string positive results and kind of finish on the right foot. And I don't know. I know it's one game, and there's six more. In my eyes, 6 more finals to play to finish off the season. So, I guess it was good that they didn't lose, but at the same time, 3-3 against, a relegation battling team in Sassuolo, obviously wasn't ideal. So, and it showed. I think they were more hungry. Even going back to the Roma game in Europa League, Roma was more hungry than Milan. It showed. They showed that fight from the get-go. Same thing with the Sassuolo game. I think they were hungrier. They had, quote unquote, more to play for. Staying in Serie A is obviously a big importance for a team like Sassuolo. So I think that showed, and it kind of bit us in the ass in terms of not picking up maximum points. But on the flip side, the character to come back, and in a game that I really didn't think they would have, they were able to do so. I think it's a bit of a silver lining, but again, it's not enough for this Milan. I think obviously the end goal needs to be more than that. So listen, we put it behind us, and there's a big game, 2 big games coming up. Starting from tomorrow. So definitely have to turn the page after this madness. And against us all.
It's funny you bring up both of our teams draw. I mean, even Napoli drew. Roma, okay, the game's not done, but it was at a drawn state.
Yeah.
So between you and Gianni, none of our teams won this weekend. I mean, there was a bunch of draws in the Serie A in general. I was just looking at the scores before. Lazio won, Lecce won, and that's it. 2 wins this weekend.
Jesus
Christ. 2 wins, 8 draws.
When was the last time that happened?
I was thinking of looking it up, scrolling up on the page. Too much work. So probably a long time.
Feel free to drop that below somewhere if we post this.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably a long time for only 2 wins out of 10 to finish a draw, and both of those on the Friday. And then Saturday, 2 games on Saturday. Oh, sorry. I say both the wins were on Friday. One of the win was on Friday. One of them was on Saturday morning. But Saturday afternoon, 0-0 Torino Juventus, and then 0-0 Bologna Monza. 2 teams, between Juve and Bologna, 2 teams that are battling for the Champions League right now.
Derby match too.
Yeah, for both teams, obviously disappointing, but I think even more so for Juve. I mean, it's more of the same, right? Struggles continue, but I really didn't like the effort in general from the players. They didn't grab the bull by the horns. This is still a derby. Okay, I know it's not the same derby as, let's say, when you play Inter or even when you play Milan. It doesn't have that same international feel, but it's important for the city of Torino. And got to give credit to the Torino fans. If you watch the game, they're start of the game, they're waving their flags like crazy, they're singing like crazy, they're passionate. That's what you love to see. But just in general, it's just not a good game. Even Torino, they didn't come out like they weren't anything special either. I think there was one chance in the second half. Even you'd expect more even for a 9th place team. And obviously for a 3rd place team from Juve, you'd expect more. But there's the whole talk about Chiesa being subbed. I think it was like the 57th minute, 58th minute, which, whatever. it almost felt like one of those subs where it was predetermined that a player was going to play a certain amount of minutes, because it seemed like it, came close to the 60th minute mark and he's out, but he came off. He wasn't too happy. He had some words for Allegri. I understand from the player's point of view, that passion, that competitiveness. You don't want to get subbed off, especially in soccer. It's not like, you miss a play in football, you miss a shift in hockey, you're going back on after.
Yeah.
In soccer, you're out. You're not playing for another week. So I get that from Chiesa, but at the same time, like, sometimes you just need to change things up. And if it's 0-0 in the 60th minute against your rival, just bring someone else on and try to do the job. Clearly, it wasn't working. I know Vlahovic missed a couple of chances again, and Chiesa. You know what, Chiesa? He didn't have a bad game. He was creating chances. He had that one chance where a beautiful pass across the box to Vlahovic. That was the one play that Vlahovic, you got to score that, man. We paid $70 million for you. You got to finish that. And Adrian, don't I sound like a broken record? Because I feel like how many times have I said that on this show? Vlahovic, you gotta finish that. Vlahovic, you gotta finish that. Like it's too much, Another thing, like, obviously I know this doesn't have an effect on the game, but I was looking through Twitter, and at one point some people are like, "Oh, bring on Yildiz." Okay, so if you bring on someone, you got to take someone off. So who do you want to take off? You're not taking off a defender. Yeah. It's either Vlahovic or Chiesa.
Pick your choice. Yeah.
Pick your poison.
Yep.
So you can't play with 12 players. Someone's got to get off. I
think it's like one of these things, like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. With this whole Juve saga, I don't know. This is me looking on the outside in, but I don't mind the change up. I think it's still clear, in my opinion, that this Allegri stint is over. I think now they're just beating a dead horse or a dead zebra, whatever you want to, a dead old lady. Like, I don't know what you want to beat down now, but it's one of these things. It's don't beat an old lady, guys. Just putting that out there, please. Don't beat no nanas. The nanas are the goats of the world, but metaphorically, being their nickname, the old lady. But I get that, but I think they're just, I don't know. It seems like they're going through the motions just to finish off this season. It seems like, in my perspective, like, it's clear to me that this system and this atmosphere around Juve is kind of just I don't know if they're permanently ruining their top players, but for the moment it looks like that. So it's an interesting one. Again, they're lucky Torino didn't do any much more, because this would have been even more of an embarrassment. I don't know, if you agree with that, Nick, but it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, you played bad, but thankfully your rival in the derby didn't play that much better than you, right? So, and which is surprising, because Torino's had some decent moments this season. I mean, nothing crazy, but Sanabria has been on a bit of a tear. Obviously Bellanova has been a big talking point, not only in the league, but obviously internationally with potential Azzurri call up, and maybe he can have a role come this summer. So. I think they got pieces, but I think it was one of these derbies. It was just a nothing derby, and I don't know if it's kind of been a bit of a habit with the Derby della Mole, but it's one of these things, man, that both teams with obviously a lot of history, one more than the other for sure, but what it means to this city, and that's the type of performance you put out, it's just not good enough, in my opinion.
No, exactly. Yeah, and you're right. Like, feels like the derby sometimes like 1-0, 2-1 games.
Yeah.
And you're right. If this was lost, it would have been even worse. But I think one thing that's working in Juve's favor right now, where it's, again, don't want to beat a dead horse here. Don't want to beat an old lady.
No,
but
please.
please don't.
No.
Like this whole coaching change.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. It's likely just going to happen at the end of the season. Simple as that. And the reason why it's not happening tomorrow is because Juve is in a position right now where they're 8 points above Roma Roma still has 6 games left. Juve has 5 games left. So it's like obviously Roma's closing the gap. Every time Juve drops points, but they're in a position where they could close out the season with Allegri and likely still qualify for top 4, maybe top 5 in this position right now, and make the coaching change in the summer. It's not.
That has to happen. Yeah, that's clear.
We at this point it's pretty clear. Like, but we'll see. We'll see if it's Motta. We'll see if who it is. But that's a story for another day. Napoli, interesting thing we saw on Twitter. They're on pace to become the basically worst defending champions ever in terms of point total for a 20-team season, and they're the only other team that has as less points.
That's bad. Yeah,
as bad was the 1945-1950 Torino, which, as we know, happened the season after the Superga disaster. So they shouldn't even be counted in this conversation. They lost their entire team.
Yeah.
That was completely expected. But for Napoli, it's struggles continue. We've talked about this. Gianni's talked about this. Crazy. 8th place right now, 49 points after the 2-2 draw to Frosinone on the weekend. Khedira, I don't know how to pronounce it. Khedira. 2 goals. And then for Napoli, it was goals from Politano and Osimhen.
And he's owned by Napoli, right?
And he's owned by Napoli. Yeah,
Khedira,
I saw something.
They have him loaned out. He played at Bari, Serie B. Did well. Whatever. Went to the World Cup, whatever. And
from Morocco, I think.
From Morocco, and he comes back to bite, Napoli in the ass with. And again, I don't know if I think it was the second goal. Was it the blunder by Meret that he kind of just passed it out? And I think there was a bit of a blunder there, if I'm not mistaken. Napoli fans can correct me if I'm wrong there, but man, just not good enough, man. Like it's one of these things. Like we've beaten, we beaten the donkey this time, Ujuch. Napoli's the mascot there, but it's crazy. Like it's a bit sad. I had the privilege of jumping on Kicks and Picks podcast with our good friends over there, Nick Diani and Steve Chavio, and the other night, and just talking about something that was a bit embarrassing, not your biggest disappointment maybe of the season. For me, it's been a tough pill to swallow just as a neutral with this Napoli team. Like going off of just beautiful football that they were playing last season, on top of the world, they had their moment, rightfully so. We've said it, they deserved it. They were high flying all of last season, took Serie A, by the horns and ran with it pretty much the entire season. And now it's like it's almost there's just not much. There's just nothing to almost look forward to. You have Spalletti in the house that made the appearance in the stadium, and I mean that's the type of performance you put on in front of your former coach, just a season ago. I mean, just not good enough, in my opinion. Napoli fans, I know are angry or are upset, or they just want the season to end. I think this is one of these things where just let's wrap this up and start fresh from the summer. And I think that's honestly what they need. I don't know where this direction is going to go. There's a lot of things to fix, obviously, but you're facing a Frosinone where, again, similar to Milan, you need to win. You need to beat these teams. You should be beating these teams, and you slip up and you manage to salvage a draw or be able just to pick up this 1 point instead of all 3 is something that is worrisome, obviously, and it hurts. So I don't know. It seems like they have to turn the page, and hopefully this summer is something that they can look forward to in a positive way, because this downfall has been. I didn't know all the stats behind it in terms of one of the worst title defenses. I know a lot of people were saying, Milan did a pretty terrible job, but I guess Napoli takes the cake for that one. So yeah, just not good enough.
Yeah, you'd think there was like at least one team in the past that got extremely low points, But I wonder. I have to look because. It says like the worst title defense for a 20-team league. Are they only considering 20-team leagues just for the point total? I don't know. Maybe you should use average points instead. But we'll see.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Napoli they might not even play in Europe next season, which is nuts. Now,
How many points are they out of? They're 49 points. You said out of six spot or seven spot, whatever it might be.
Yeah, 49. I mean, they're right there with Lazio, and then Atalanta's at 651 with a game in hand. So I mean, it's possible, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their schedule is like for the rest of the year.